Let me ask you a question. If you had the inside track on the next big thing, how much do you think you could scrape together?
What do you make?
We sell virtual experiences. Walk a mile in the shoes of the less fortunate, and when you wake up, no matter what problems you have in your real life, feel that much better.
Probably is a pretty big market for something like that.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
There's still a couple people I could ask.
Mom and Dad.
So you said you got some friends that might need a financial advisor?
Something's different. What did you do today?
I was reading an article the other day about a tech bubble. You don't think there's anything to worry about, do you?
Code is unstable. Void mirrors at all costs.
it's called XVR, and it's realer than anything anybody's ever seen.
Is everything okay?
Great.
Huh? Feel sick, dizzy, lightheaded?
I'm sorry, lady!
Joel, you need to call the police.
What are you doing back there?
I had to check on
Did you?
Get out! I told you we needed to have guards. I told you we needed to hit pause on this thing.
Where'd you move them?
You didn't listen to me, and you let me do all the dirty work.
When I was a kid, they told us we could be whoever we wanted to be. I actually believed it.
What have you been up to, man? Working at a hedge fund?
No. Startup.
Just got to watch Empathy Inc. just a few hours ago, and holy crap, that was unexpected.
Cool, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I get so many screeners and go through so many movies every week, and a lot of them are like almost like copy and paste. And then I see this black and white trailer for this film, and I'm like, all right, is this going to be some kind of art house noir stuff? And then I watch it, holy shit, this is actually really, really good.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I think we use that to our benefit.
Yeah, the choice to use black and white was really good. It keeps all the distractions to a minimum. You're seeing just what you need to see in this film. I mean, because it's so character driven that there's no fanciful, lighting tricks or color palette. It's very stark and very, very well done. So
Thank you. Yeah.
How did all this come about? Where did this idea come from?
Yeah. So basically, Mark and I were looking. Mark's a screenwriter. We were looking to. We had made a film in 2014, and we were basically just like, we had finished it. We had kind of gone through the whole process of that, and we were kind of both like, okay, we want to take the lessons we learned. We learned a lot, and we wanted to really, really make something that to push us to the next level. So we for a while were just kind of concepting and coming up with ideas and sharing ideas and saying, okay, what do we like? What do we not? We just, trying to create a process that instead of kind of writing whole scripts, we could just focus on the idea phase until we were kind of both aligned and what the concept was. And we could kind of get the idea down to like a paragraph of text. And then once we had, so that was our concentration. We felt, we could pump out more of those than having to go from the beginning to end. Because, for a while, that's how we wrote. We just wrote like, we come up with a basic idea and then we try to write the script. So for this, we were like, no, let's just focus on ideas. And so for like 6 months, we just plowed every couple days we get on a call. We say, okay, here's my idea, da 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 da. And over that time, the ideas just became more sophisticated and started incorporating things that we liked from other ideas that we had, And then I, one day Mark sent this idea. And we were like, yes, this is it. Let's go. And so then we kind of once we had that, we were like, we're moving full steam ahead, and we started writing out kind of the outline of what we thought we should do.
And what about your casting? Because it seems every character, no matter how small their part is, was very integral to the overall plot. Did you have certain actors in mind, or was it basically an open casting call?
Yeah, so it was actually an open casting call. What happened was, one of the big ideas that we had when we were concepting was to come up with something that would be very cheap to show, but would still pack a big punch. And so like body swapping was this idea for like, I don't know, maybe 2 months of the 6 months was how can we get that idea how can that idea work? Because if we could kind of crack that, then you know we could tell a really big story with minimal, you know, resources. So from the beginning, we just felt, okay, if we can come up with that, then we know we could get, you know, access to talent, because, you know, New York is filled with just great actors, and so that was kind of always kind of just part of the plan. So then when we finally kind of felt that we did crack that, then we took it really seriously, but we hired a casting director that we had known through some other work that we had done. And we just felt like, okay, let's really find the people who can pull this off. And I mean, it was a lot of hard work, I think, from the actor standpoint, but there was a big investment in terms of time on the casting, because we knew that was our big effect, basically.
When you were doing the casting, was like Zach and Jay, they're pretty much the main antagonists and protagonists of this film.
Yeah.
Were their initial auditions very standoutish, or was it kind of, did they have a running of like other actors? Was it a close call, or?
No, I think everyone was a slam dunk. I mean, we felt, yeah, I think, you know, you see like a lot, I mean, I guess you see a lot of actors, and you see people who are good, but then I don't know, there's like, with everyone, I think there was just like a clicking moment where they were like, oh, they're gonna really, but I do think that you're picking up, I mean, we had written it this way, but I think that it just naturally, it was not as extreme in the script, but Jay and Zach, I mean, sorry, Zach and Jay are like really like physically opposites, you know, and in the script it was kind of written that they were kind of more formally, but it really comes out more just who they are. And I think that it was like a really funny perk of just like going through this process that it really, you know, it really emphasized that difference. And it's kind of like a fun thing to watch them switch, I think, because they're so opposite, you know?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I would have liked to have seen more of towards the later part of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for people that don't watch it, because there is a pretty big twist towards the middle, but when Zach has to play the other role of the antagonist, I would have liked to have seen more of him trying to be the other character, because you see it for a few minutes, but then we get another swap. But I would have liked to have seen more of that, because you get just a tiny little glimpse of him being this completely polar opposite character, but then as the story progresses, you don't get to see any more of it. But that's the one thing I would have liked to have seen more of. Was there more that was cut, or was that just how the story progressed naturally?
It was how it progressed naturally. I think that, but you know, for us, we were very dedicated to this idea of, you know, really sticking with Joel. And there's really only one moment that we don't stick with Joel, which is actually that moment that you're talking about, when he tries to break his hand, or when he breaks his hand off. But other than that, we were like religiously kind of committed to this idea of like, we don't break from the character. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun to watch Zach play Lester. I think it's always like it gets a lot of laughs.
Did Zach and Jay spend some time extensively together to kind of get their mannerisms down for when they do swap, so it's more believable? It's not just one character just kind of playing a little bit more mopey and one being a little bit more eccentric?
So yeah, they did talk a lot when they were on set together, but I think, you know, what I did was I showed what happened was it didn't line up perfectly that Jay's first day was going to be when Zach was supposed to be there. So I showed Jay asked, can you show me some footage of what Zach is doing? And he kind of quickly picked up on, like, okay, I understand how he's playing this, and was able to kind of fit in. But yeah, there were definitely, when they were together, they were talking a lot about, like, okay, how would you do this? How do you think this should come out?
How would you classify this film? Because I'm having a kind of a difficult time figuring out, is it horror, is it sci-fi, is it noir? What would you categorize this film as?
Yeah, I think it's really like a sci-fi noir. Yeah, I think that's the idea. And I think, by the way, from the beginning, we were very interested in, like, kind of playing with genre. So one of the big things that we were interested in kind of telling this, like, capitalistic fable, and which was, I think, like the noir part of it, and kind of telling something also this technology gone crazy, and feeling that these two genres, kind of these well-established genres, were really, really good to kind of be meshed together. They kind of fit neatly together. So that was kind of from the beginning something that we were thinking about. That was like a fun way to approach the story. So that's kind of how I personally classify it.
As far as shooting locations go, was everything pretty much planned out, or did you have to make some last-minute changes for some of the locations? Because it looks like there's more or less like 4 or 5 different locations, but it seems like some of those could be kind of problematic to shoot in, given pedestrian traffic and sound and everything else.
Yeah, so it was tough. I mean, basically, we had very few resources, so planning was our kind of our strategy completely. We had a big pre-production, and by the way, I just have to actually move rooms. Tell me if I hop out for a second. Yeah. So basically, and in that we spent a lot of time on locations. We were trying to get, like, everything locked before production. It ended up being that the XVR lab was like this, like, dangling thing that we couldn't really get, and we ended up, during production, what happened was, those chairs in the movie, they weighed like 100 pounds each, and they were old dentist chairs from like the 50s, and we thought we, like, a couple of people, but it, like, wasn't how working, and so we ended up hiring this, like, we ended up just putting a thing on Craigslist, like, hey, can any movers help us move this? We'll pay you like $100 or something to help us move. We only had to move it like once or twice. So so these movers came, and then it turned out they were collectors, like they were kind of like these pickers of like these old kind of old equipment. And they were like, hey, when you're done, by the way, like, we would love to buy this from you. And they were telling us about this warehouse that they had, and we were like, whoa, like, we'll give them to you. Just we film in your thing. And they were like, yeah, sure. So it ended up being, we shot it at it was a last minute thing. It was like a day or two away. It ended up being perfect for our needs.
It seems like those locations are exactly what I think of when someone's got kind of a skeevy startup, that's kind of shady. Everything kind of felt just right. Like a back room of like a rundown Radio Shack or something. That's exactly where I would pick something like this being. Yeah, so it's a dilapidated Kmart. And I mean, I'll tell you, it was so gross. The bathroom had not been flushed in like 10 years. Oh. And it was awful. But we didn't change a thing. I mean, other than that, it was perfect, What about the towards the last part of the movie where the lab's been moved to kind of that little flat? How was that location to film in? Because it seemed like it was very tight. Like, you'd almost have no room for lighting or even a camera. Yeah. So it was very tight, and it was like, basically that was where Mark was staying during the shoot, and it was a good friend of Mark's who let us kind of use the basement of his brownstone in Brooklyn, and so we kind of had full access. They were actually doing construction on it.
or it was right before they were doing construction. So they were like, you have to tear down a wall, tear down a wall. You have to, knock down a door, do it. Don't worry about it. So it was like, it ended up, that was one of the reasons we used it, just because we could mess with it. We could do stuff. That was one of the more flexible places. But yeah, it was very tight. It got very hot in there. It was just uncomfortable.
When you look back at the final version of the film, was there anything that you'd wish you had changed or shot differently, or did it pretty much turn out the way you guys wanted it to?
Yeah, I think it's complicated. I think as a whole, it ended up, a lot richer than we had planned, just because you have a lot of talented people who are kind of just giving their input and, trying to, bring their value to the table. But, having said, I've seen it so many times. There's always something I'd want to tweak and, do. I think it's just natural. But, overall, I'm very proud of it.